Welcome, everybody, back to another episode. Yes, you are right. Another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and I'm joined, as always, as you can see at the top left-hand corner there, by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Adam Cousins. Adam, good evening. How are you, mate?
I'm okay. It's just we've had a bit of a monsoon.
Yeah, it's a shock. I guess it's not going to be surprised to hear it's raining in England. But Adam, as I always say, my man, you're the king of the intro. Who is our amazing guest today?
Well, let's hope I don't get cut off like I did with Aiden English the other week.
Good old Aiden. What a time that was.
Still does. No, our guest today is a decorated wrestler. He's been in so many promotions, WWE, Ring of Honor, all over the place. Tag team champion, very underrated in my opinion. Little known fact, and if you watched, I believe it was Judgment Day or Unforgiven, he did have the heavyweight championship for a couple of minutes in a scramble match that he was involved in. And he also reinvented himself when he needed to. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for us to welcome the Brian Kendrick. Good afternoon to you, Brian, I believe.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
No problem, Brian. The pleasure is all ours, my man. Thank you so much for jumping on the pod. Brian, we always start off with our guests that we have on these podcasts, just asking them with a little icebreaker, a little nice easy question. What do you think of the state of wrestling in 2023?
I think it seems to be pretty healthy. As far as attendance, as far as the amount of different promotions to work for where you can make a decent living doing it. I would say that the business is doing really well right now.
No, I agree. It's booming.
Certainly is, especially over here as well. We're sponsoring an event coming up in July, so we've got a partner called Ignite. We're sponsoring them coming up, and over here in the UK, like the independent scene is like, it was like it probably about 10 or so years ago. And then we kind of had a bit of a dip. NXT come out. There was this whole worry that the NXT UK was going to kill the independents over here. It didn't. Then we had the pandemic. And now, Andy, the amount of events we've gone to and some of the talent that we have seen just in those events, it wouldn't have shocked us as a couple of names have been called up. That's how, already to Ring of Honor or something like that. That's how it is over here. But one of your trainers, you were kind of training in a bit of Shawn Michaels' school growing up a little bit.
Yeah, that's the second school I went to. I went to the NWA Southwest. Yes. First time getting into a ring was there. The guys were very nice. I enjoyed my training. Then I moved to San Antonio and trained under Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy with Rudy Boy Gonzalez as the assistant.
Wow, what was that like, training under Shawn Michaels? It's not every person that's ever wrestled that can say they've learned from one of the best ever.
So it was intimidating because I was just a kid from a small town, and so I was just kind of nervous anyways. And so being around Shawn Michaels, a human cartoon, it was crazy. What it did was it motivated me to where I couldn't say no. Physically I was going to press forward because he's here. So that, I think that was the biggest advantage of having him there, besides learning an American psychology-based style of wrestling to start.
What is the process of going from learning to then developing your training to eventually ending up in the WWE? Like you say, you were young. It's all a learning curve for you. What was that process like? Because me and Adam say it all the time, we're just fans, and you see the end picture. You see people in the WWE. A lot of people just watch a lot of mainstream wrestling. We're lucky. We watch a lot of independents now, and the independent circuit that you get the content to is a lot better. But when we were growing up, it was just pretty much the WWF that myself and Adam got on TV. What's that whole process like, Brian, from going from training to getting to the WWE? Because, we all see the final product. But how hard was it for you to go from the training school to eventually being in, no doubt, the biggest wrestling promotion in the entire world?
So it wasn't that hard in the sense that it didn't take very long. It was the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. We started July 5th of 1999, and come early February of the year 2000, there was house shows in San Antonio and Austin, and so he wanted to get some of his guys on a house show. So it took for me a little less than 2 years because I went to a school prior, but like for Danielson and Lance Cade, this was their first wrestling school. Lance might have did some local training first, but certainly for Danielson, this was his first wrestling training. Starts July 5th, and then by the end of February the next year, he signed to a contract, as was I. So it was right place, right time through a lot of hard work. Like if we didn't put in the hard work, then we would have failed. But the opportunity came pretty early on.
Just finishing up from me before I hand over to Adam. What's it like at the moment? We've been fortunate enough to speak to some wrestlers over the times we've been doing this podcast. What's it like the moment you sign a WWE contract?
And it came so quick. I was 20 years old. It was a WWF contract.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was one of the last.
The good old days.
Yeah, huh? Yeah.
I miss them days.
I got it somewhere still. It was great, but again, it was all just a dream come true. It was like I was watching a movie. It came so early on, as opposed to some of the struggles. These guys who are really very talented, and they just haven't been in the right place at the right time, whatever it is, fate or what have you. We were right place at right time, so it was hard for it to have any real significance to me. I was living my dream. I was really happy. I was a miserable boy, and then growing up, man, I worked for the WWE or WWF, and so it was a dream come true. But I didn't have anything else to compare it to.
Yeah. Oh no, great answer.
No, sure. Was you worried about? We all know the WWE's, the ideal wrestler from the WWE, even back then in WWF, was a big, cartoonish, 6'6", 300-pound, ripped to hell. Was you worried at that point that, do I actually fit this mold? How am I going to fit in here? Or was you just excited just to be there and to be able to get that contract and start?
No, I wasn't. Worried because Rey Mysterio Jr. had already proven it could happen. Right. Seeing him as a teenager on TV, just right place, right time. Yeah. And I thought, holy smokes, I can do this. And that was it. So that's all I needed. That's all I needed was, if I work hard enough, there's nothing else I can do. So I'm going to work hard enough, be smart enough to try to put myself in the right positions, meaning the right place, the right time. Put myself in that place, put myself there at that time. And that was it. So Rey Mysterio made me believe I could be a pro wrestler.
It's not exactly it's in for Rey Mysterio is a really good one to believe, because he's been there now, Hall of Famer. He's been there, seen it, and done it in loads of different promotions. Not even obviously in WCW. I remember him being when we managed to get WCW over here in the UK. So it was really difficult. We're just sidetracking slightly. So instead of the Monday Night Wars, we kind of had the Friday Night Wars over here. So World of Sport finished back in the 80s. Sky come out, I want to say 89, Andy? 89?
Yeah, around 89, 90.
So, and we never had it live. It was never live like it is at the moment. So we would get Raw, what was it, 7, 8 o'clock on a Friday?
Yeah, Nitro at the same time as well.
Yeah, you'd flick over. We had Cartoon Network. So you used to have like Johnny Bravo. Do you remember that program? Yeah. So you literally, Johnny Bravo would finish, and then it would go TNT and Nitro would start. And we did have that thing about splitting.
Same kind of thing, really. Cartoon and then WCW when it started.
It was like this. Yeah, but it was really, that was our thing. But I still vividly remember Kevin Nash one-darting him into the production thing, and the police actually got called that night. They thought it was, and that sometimes that crossover between, the scripted and how it can come over with someone's watching it and maybe not knowing all about it. Anyway, sidetrack. A couple of years after, you obviously had the name Spanky in WWE, and you had a rap battle with a certain megastar now called John Cena. Now, my question about, I know Andy's got a question, but my question is, was it that obvious at that stage that he was going to be the megastar that he is now?
I hadn't thought about it, like again, because I was young. He was young too. I mean, I'm 43. I'm going to be 44 soon. I think John's maybe a year or two older than I am.
Mm.
So we were real young men at the time with kind of a goofy that people from that generation kind of have a certain sense of humor, and
Yeah.
I just knew like, man, like, he's the funniest dude here. I knew that like this guy is funny in a different kind of way funny. I knew he was quick witted. I knew he looked like a beast. I thought, but I didn't think about, okay, who's the future?
Mm.
Down the line they're gonna put, it's gonna be Brock, it's gonna be this guy. These are things I didn't even think about. I was just very much in the moment. Uh I know he was super talented at everything he did.
That segment, by the way, was hilarious when you done that rap battle with John Cena. My name's Spanky, and then I think the referee had to give you a beat. And if I vaguely
Wasn't that
remember,
Baby L? Wasn't that Brian Hebner?
Brian
It was.
Hebner was the referee, and I
Yeah.
thought, well, how did you react when they pitched that segment to you?
So what happened was Brian Hebner was beatboxing before a house show, I think in Alaska.
Yeah.
We just and started doing beatboxing on the microphone before the show, and everybody was blown away. I certainly was. I don't know how often we did that, but it quickly became, whether it was Paul Heyman was at the building and is in the writing offices, or if Johnny Ace, who would have been traveling at house shows, pitched it, or if John Cena had the nerve to pitch it himself. I don't know who pitched it, but I knew like, oh, you got to be kidding me, because that dude just beat like, yeah, let's do it. This is hilarious. It was a really fun skit. Yeah.
Did you find it hard? Sorry, Andy. I didn't.
No, you're good, mate. Carry on.
Because what we've seen recently, and a lot watching WWE at the minute, with like when Sami Zayn joined the Bloodline, was wrestlers kind of breaking. When something happened, they'd have to sort of hide their face because they're going to laugh. And you shouldn't laugh because they're like. Was it hard not to at this point, or could you just manage to pull that face and not have to?
You definitely nearly broke Cena when you started. My name's Spanky. You definitely nearly broke Cena. Then I thought he was going to crack up laughing.
Well, I'll tell you, and this is horrible. But I would be more like, and this sounds awful, but it's because of my sardonic nature, I suppose. That I would feel more confident in not laughing than I would, let's say, a 10 bell salute for a wrestler who had passed. And we have to go out there and stand and be serious. And if all I had to is, if one buddy elbowed me, I would die. I would start laughing because the moment is supposed to be serious. So I guess not laughing at the death, but like, we're all standing here. And when you become aware of the somber moment, the last thing you should do is laugh. So the funniest thing in the world is to laugh. So all I have to say is, no, I wasn't worried about that there, but there are times I've been worried about laughing during the trivia.
You just mentioned 10 bell salutes, and we had never asked this. How difficult is that? Because you're on the stage. Obviously, as you say, it's a somber day. I mean, even as silly fans like we are, when a wrestler passes away, even we feel that kind of, just not because we say we don't know them. Some of these wrestlers we've spent growing up, so when we do feel that, but how difficult is it when you've got, as you say, stand on that stage? You've got to, generally, you've got a 10 bell salute, the crowd, and as you say, all someone's got to do is that. But how difficult is that 10 bell salute does it matter? Because I know was you there when they done the 9/11 one?
I don't.
Or was it
think
the more
I
Eddie?
was with the company one? Yet? So,
yeah, the Eddie one.
The Eddie one was.
Oh, I would have been with the company for Eddie.
Yeah,
I would have been with the company for Eddie, and Eddie's a guy who I really admire. Eddie was a guy who I would say, "Excuse me, sir, if you have a chance, would you mind watching my match, please?" And he would be a guy I would ask him every time afterwards, "Do you happen to have a chance to watch my match, sir?" He'd be a guy who, if he said any sort of criticism, I wouldn't try to justify why I did. I wouldn't try to give any excuses to why I did it. Even if I believe that he was wrong or misread the situation, I'm not going to fucking say, pardon me.
You can swear. It's good. You can swear.
Okay, good.
Should have heard us yesterday.
I loved Eddie before I met Eddie.
Yeah.
All that to say is, the last thing I should do right now is laugh. So it becomes hard not to laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. It must be really difficult. Eddie was great. I met him in Los Angeles, WrestleMania 21. I'll just quickly tell it because I always love this story.
And I didn't have. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't have any problems not laughing at the Eddie one.
No,
sorry,
no, definitely.
But in other times, guys, I didn't know. Sorry, please. I apologize.
I'll just segue very quickly, Andy. When we so we flew to LA, we've done something stupid. It was my first holiday away from my parents, and went with a couple of guys, a couple of my friends, and we flew. For some reason, we flew backwards to Germany to go forwards to LA. So it was like a 15-hour flight. And we got there, touchdown, got to the hotel, and we had a Denny's joined onto the hotel. It was on the strip of LAX. And someone said, "Oh, Eddie's doing this signing at 6 to 8 at Toys R Us." And we're like, "Okay, cool, let's go. We'll have lunch and we'll go down." And we got there, and then I'm in the queue. There was people in tents. It was like ridiculous. Yeah, it was strictly limited, 500 people. And we sort of sat there and we got out of the cab and we're like, yeah, we're not going to get this. And so we said, look, we'll stand in the queue. If we don't get it, we'll just go around. There was loads of shops and there's somewhere we eat. We'll just go and do all that. And it was 496, 497, 498, 499, and 500. That was us. So we were the last 5 in this queue.
No.
So he gets a police escort in, and it says, say, 6 to 8. 10 to 8, we're not even in the door yet. So we're like, here we go. And then we get to 8 o'clock and we get to the door. So you can literally look for the door and you can see him at the autograph table. And they went, look, we've got to ask him if he's okay continuing because obviously he had an allotted time and that's it. It's up to him.
Yeah.
So like, well, do you know what? If you don't do it, we don't do it. It's fine. It's just one of those things. And she walked over to him and she said, she pointed at the queue and said, "You've got these guys left. Is it all right?" He stops, looks up, gets on the table, does his shoulder thing and says, "We got on there to say." And at that point, speaking of the term, shit your pants of excitement, but that is exactly what we done. It's just an amazing.
He was a character for sure, man. One of the best ever. Brian, what was the moment for you when you got to the WWE? Before we get on to like you holding some tag team titles and stuff like that, was there a specific moment for you? Because like you say, like Adam said, there was this quote unquote the way that WWE had to look back in the original WWF days, and like you say, Rey Mysterio proved that wrong. What was the light bulb moment for you where you thought, you know what? I can do this. I'm in here. I don't need to prove anything to anyone other than myself. And I know that I can do this. What was the moment in your head? Was there a specific match? Was there a moment in WWE where you thought, you know what? No, I'm actually very good at what I do.
I don't know when that came about. I know I'm still at the point that if there were vets who I admire, today I would still ask. I would ask a Mr. Regal or a Mr. Malenko or whoever it might be, what his thoughts on my match are. So I think I'm good at it. But
you are. Trust us, you are.
I appreciate that. But like not to the point where I wouldn't still be asking these guys. I wouldn't think like if it's Bubba Ray and do you have a chance to watch my match or I wouldn't think, well, what we're going for is 2 different things. He's a big guy. I still want to hear his opinion, even if what we are going for is 2 different things. Because I think these vets know that what we're going for is 2 different things. But what we're still going for is some sort of being the conductor to the crowd, and that's what we're all looking for, is to be able to be one with that crowd and feel something in hopes that they'll feel something and go with that. So I'm never to the point where I wouldn't ask people who I admire.
Do you feel yourself now doing that? Now that you've wrestled for a number of years, one of the best technical and in-ring wrestlers that I've definitely seen. Do you find yourself now being that guy, passing on the advice, and where people come up to you, and does it like play in your mind of like, you're kind of not passing the torch is probably the wrong word, but you've been there, you've been that young wrestler, you spoke to Eddie, you spoke to Bully Ray, you've gone to all these people. How does it feel now for you when you get people come up to you and go, "Hey Brian, would you mind watching my match? Would you mind helping me with this?" How does it feel when you now are that guy, when you used to be the young guy trying to get help from these veterans?
I'll do it if I'm at a show and a kid asks, "Can you watch the match for me, please?" I will watch the match for him, unless there's something. And I'll always preface it, so long as this. And I will. I'll watch the matches. I'll give my thoughts. Um, I feel a responsibility because I've asked a lot of wrestlers who are way better than I am to do this favor for me when I was way worse than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have passed on. And so, yeah, I'll if a kid is asking me if I can watch his match, I'll watch his match.
No, yeah, definitely. Sorry, that's got to make.
That's right. Before we move on to Paul London and your tag team, I got a quick question because obviously you've done TNA, you worked with some amazing talent as X Division champion. What would I say the top 3 guys outside of the WWE that you worked with, in your opinion?
Oh boy,
He's got to narrow this down to 3. Wow.
3, yeah, just 3. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Good luck with
it. So I don't know. Golly.
Well, you said Carly for a minute then.
No.
The great Carly.
I would say Motor City Machine Guns and Young Bucks are as far as tag teams go, man. And I would also say Takaiwa and Ishii and Otani. If we're talking singles wrestlers.
Yeah.
Ishii's made a name for himself. Otani, he's had a legendary career. Anyways, yeah, these are the guys I think are the best. Off the top of my head, yeah.
Yeah, we've got to put you on the spot there.
Yeah,
that's rough. Yeah, there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones that didn't wrestle here. Yeah.
If you could relive any day in wrestling, could involve a match you've been in or just a day in your entire wrestling career. I host a few different podcasts for the NFL over here, talking Washington Commanders, and I've had a few old players on and current players, and I always interested to hear their answer. I'm like, one day you get to relive the whole day from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep. What day would you choose in your career and why?
It'd be my first match wrestling as Sir Regis, because the promoter at NWA Southwest, his wife, Ken Taylor was his name. I forget his wife's name. His wife I only met a few times. Super sweet lady. But because I talk weird, she thought it was from England. Because
you're one of us, Brian. You're one of us.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're one of us. This is why this podcast is going. This is why we're getting on so well.
Yeah.
So they put me in a green suit, and for music they thought, oh, this would be good theme music. The music they gave me was the Emperor's March. Boom, 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 boom. All 128 pounds of me in a green suit. Wrestling gets I forget the dude's name, but he was a man. He was an adult. I remember I got suplexed or body slammed on the linoleum, and Ken's wife, yelled at that old guy. But if I knew what was going to happen with all of this, I would love to go do that day again. Yeah. And go like, you got to be kidding me. Like this, like I put up with this, you know what I mean? Like I did this, like, yeah. So it's like, what am I complaining about now? It would put things into perspective. No, more than any other high moment or false achievement or anything like that. Not to say false, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Great answer.
Yes, so we moved segue. You mentioned tag teams a minute ago, Machine Guns. You got paired with Paul London in the WWE and had an amazing run as tag team champions. One of the longest reigning at the time before Deuce and Domino. What was it? Because obviously it's predominantly single, and then you're going into a tag team. How does that change the philosophy of a match for you from going from a single into a tag team match?
Like the actual structure of it and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the thing in a tag match, the objective is clear. You make that tag.
Hot tag, right?
Yes. And it's ultimately the hot tag if there's a heat. But we know what's gonna, this desperate partner on the corner, desperate, and he's making noise, come on, and then the crowd cheers, oh yeah, help me. And we tease that moment, but it's all for that moment. It's very specific, that moment. A singles match, doesn't necessarily have to have a double down. You know, it could have a heat and then a comeback that could be just out of an elbow, boom, no elbow, boom, you know, elbow, elbow, whoa, duck one, roll up, kick out, backside kick out, block, punch, 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 and we can kind of phase into it. You can go many different ways, but a tag match has a direct objective, and that's to me the major difference. I love playing with it and the extra parts that you can do, and that there are rules. So you have to play within the rules, which makes it that much better. When the ref loses any sort of authority, it goes to shit to me. But the WWE style of a ref will disqualify you if you're in there for more than 5 makes it a brilliant match.
When you first heard that you were going to become tag team champions with Paul London, how did you receive it? Because like Adam says, you had a long, great reign with some amazing matches. I mean, we've seen it in recent times with the Usos holding the tag team titles for a hell of a long time. How did you react when you kind of knew that, like, look, this is the run we're going to have, and every time they kept telling you, no, you're going over tonight, you're keeping the titles, and you guys had a great run with them tag team titles. It must have given you a enormous sense of like pride, and you know, and you hear it all the time, WWE trusting their employees and their superstars. It must have given you that great sense of trust that WWE have said to you guys, here you go, here's the titles, we trust you to carry this division on your back.
And we didn't have the perspective. The way we first found out that we were winning was that day. And this isn't like, look, man, I've screwed up. I think if you guys have done enough research, you know that I've screwed up enough in my life. Well, this was a down moment for Joey Mercury in his life. And so they had to get the belts on. Yeah. And they were awesome. Eminem was they were an incredible act. And so the agent apologized to them in front of us when we're going over the match. Sorry, we don't want to do this, but we have to because of the suspension. And there was no it didn't matter what we thought, you know, and they just said this brazenly in front of us, like, oh shoot, so like you're letting us know you don't want us to be champs. Like that was a bit rough. So so Paul and I had a bit of a chip on our shoulder, I think. I mean, I remember the glance, you know, like, motherfuckers, you know. So we just kept it almost for a year by default, and that was it. It wound up by, you know, whatever the reasons were, they were stuck on us.
Did that chip stay on your shoulder for most of the run? Because you know, like you say, you were brought up in the Shawn Michaels era, and if there's one guy that's had a chip on his shoulder throughout his career, it's Shawn Michaels. And I think sometimes in wrestling you need that chip on your shoulder, because there's been so many times that talent have been underrated and underused, and when they do get that push, they're like, do you know what? F you, I'm going to prove you all wrong. Is that the kind of way that you guys promote your entire run, kind of things? Like, look, hey, we knew where we come from. They didn't want us here to do this. Every match we have, let's go and prove these motherfuckers wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever put it in words like that, but I think it was a feeling, and I do know that Paul took a lot of pride in his wrestling, and so did I. I mean, we there'd be nights some people might go, wow, you know, let's do this and this, it works, this always gets a reaction. If Paul wants to steal the show, I want to put on the best match that I possibly can. And again, I don't want to speak for Paul, but I think he does, you know, want to steal the show, put on the best match possible. So that really helped us. We were determined.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Sorry, that's got me.
No, it certainly was. I loved that run. I thought it was great.
I thought it was an amazing run. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
It was a time when I thought that, you know, they started, you know, tag team wrestling. We grew up Demolition, LOD, Powers of Pain, Midnight Rock and Roll. You know, all of those types.
Me too.
Yeah. So we grew up. You know, we have not. There's not much difference in age really between any three of us in this.
Oh, what do you mean? I'm only in my 20s.
Yeah. So Stone.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah. But they sort of had to do some numbers. As you mentioned, Eminem, and we had the Melina on in April, and she was, you know, it's a wonderful.
Oh, what a woman!
Yeah. And do you think like they just kind of, even like now, we're now seeing more trios than we are tags? It just felt like it was like this downward spiral, and even like sometimes they get lucky. They bring a Sheamus and Cesaro, put them together, and it's magic. And it was a bit like you in London. Put you in London together,
magic.
Jesus, we haven't seen this. It reminded me of like Rockers.
Yeah, I've got it in my notes actually. I was going to say like if you're comparing them, I could what you and Paul done reminded me of the early like late 80s to early 90s Rockers matches that I watched. I was like, this is if the people that never watched the Rockers growing up watched Brian and Paul, this is the modern day Rockers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And those guys also had a very brief run too. And Paul and I were not together very long.
No.
So it was just a little shoot and boom. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. But it really, I mean, first of all, for me, it really worked. I loved that. I thought it was a great team. Moving on to the life after that. So you then changed to I mean, obviously there was a draft, things happened, you split up, you had Ezekiel Jackson for a bit. But ultimately you become the Brian Kendrick, which is a reinvention. So we talked like guys that reinvented themselves. Chris Jericho did it, Undertaker's done it a couple of times. This one for me, we sort of touched on it at the start of the introduction when you had that title reign briefly during the Scramble match. I thought that if you were going to get a sort of big title, it was going to, I'm saying not a tag team title, wasn't big, but a singles title in the WWE. I thought it was going to be then, and I thought Intercontinental or something like that was going to happen because you reinvented yourself in such a way that, like, what we see now, for example, like what Chris Jericho has done when he creates this new sort of persona of himself to keep himself relevant. I thought that Brian Kendrick was a fantastic change, and one that I thought, to be honest, if they could have run and done more with it, in my opinion, I don't know.
So, you know, I was fired probably within a year of debuting that character. Yeah. Shortly after that pay-per-view, I was chopped off at the knees.
Yeah.
And I didn't stick up for myself when I should have. I should have insisted on riding on that wave. I should have insisted that my bodyguard can't be drafted. You can't draft a bodyguard. I should have insisted on that. And you know, they could say, well, it's our TV show, and they're right to say that.
Yeah.
But that would tell me you guys are done investing in me anyway, so do you want to just fire me now? If I was brash enough to say that at the time, I should have, and things might have been different, but that was it. The truth is I got fired because I was a goof. You know, I was a maniac, I was a party boy, plus I didn't stick up for myself. Live the life of a wrestler.
Yeah, we hear that quite often. But Gabby, did you do some work with Ronda Rousey?
I did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've read somewhere that you was kind of training. The other thing that come out recently was Backlash. Was there something that you were doing there at Backlash, or was it before, prior to that? You were doing some either training or producing something at Backlash. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. There was a couple of bits that come out, and I've written it down.
Yes. So, is this? Would you like to talk about the Ronda training, or would you like to talk about the Backlash stuff?
Both.
Okay, great. So the Ronda training came about because of Roderick Strong's wife and Ronda go way back.
Shafir, right? Marina Shafir.
Yep. So Ronda was thinking about getting into pro wrestling, and Roddy said, "Well, Spanky lives out in LA," and so I get a text from Ronda Rousey, and so I got it. She reached out to me. We started training. Then she had her agents started talking with the WWE, and that was that. So, Ronda Rousey came to me for training, and then this Backlash stuff. It was for the Bad Bunny Damian Priest match, but it's not for the company. The company brought me in, but it was because a few years back when they had their tag match, I worked with them.
Oh, I think it added.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So I think because of the comfort level that we built, Bunny and I, that they requested me to come back for that too. So yeah, went to Puerto Rico.
You may end up at SummerSlam then, by the sounds of it.
I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be at
No.
SummerSlam. Yeah, where's
Well,
SummerSlam?
it's
It's been
rumored.
rumored.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been rumored. Yeah,
it's
but
been
the thing
rumored.
is, nowadays, like,
He's actually, geez, full credit to Brian. He's good. I mean, me and Adam talk about this all the time. Like, you used to bring back guys back in the day. I mean, I think Kane used to choke slam Pete Rose like every single like Mania or something like that. And yeah, you know, but Bad Bunny is he's good. I mean, it's full credit. I mean, I've watched him and you've watched Logan Paul's matches and things like that. And you know, the celebrities that they're bringing in these days are actually very good wrestlers as well.
Yeah, I think both of them. So I've met Logan, but I think both of them were motivated. You know, they wanted to be really good at this. I know Bunny put in a lot of training. He was training out
You
in
could tell,
Orlando
yeah.
for months. He wants to be good. And man, I thought that match was awesome. That match
it really was.
Match of the night for me.
I mean, yeah, me and Andy are like sitting there going, yeah, he's so good. We ain't got fucking clue what wrestling's like. You know, we've never been in.
No, I ran the ropes for
the.
the first time 2 weeks ago at an independent show, and it hurt like hell, Brian. I'm going to stick to talking about wrestling. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. It hurts. It hurts.
It hurts like hell. You mentioned
Yeah.
there obviously working with Bad Bunny. I remember watching something with you a while back that when you got into producing NXT originally when you went down there, and the interview that I watched, you said you enjoyed the producing more than you thought you would. How was that whole experience from 1 minute you're wrestling and to next you're there with your headset on or you're helping put matches together and you are the producer of when I really loved NXT back then. But what was that like for you personally, going from in the ring to outside of it, headsets on, helping talent, producing matches? What was that whole experience like for you? Because I think I remember watching the WWE documentary that they'd done on you down in NXT, and you seem to have the time of your life.
It was fun. So the best time I ever had doing it was for NXT UK.
Yeah.
Because I would in fact wrestle and then agent in my gear.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to actually wrestle on the same card where you put on a headset later, to me was the best. I want to wrestle. Like, that's my favorite thing to do. I love wrestling. As far as a job goes, being a producer is a pretty sweet job though, because it's still involved with wrestling. Biggest upside is you're not going to break your neck being a producer. It's probably not going to happen. But I like the producing. I like the training. I like the wrestling. I like pretty much every aspect of wrestling.
And you still got your school? Is that still open?
Yeah, I train kids on Thursdays and Tuesdays. Yep.
Wow, brilliant! That's an awesome. Again, you could be training, the next generation talent. We'll be doing this podcast, Andy, in like 20 years, and we're like, oh, this guy was trained by Brian Kendrick, and
exactly.
Yeah.
Brian, what's the one thing that you miss from when you first started wrestling that you'd like to see in the current wrestling setup? If that might be something that you learned in your training. Is there? I always like to say, I go back to when I speak to my NFL players that I interview. I'm like, is there anything you miss? I interview a lot of guys from like the 70s and 80s and stuff like that, and they're like, well, I missed this and I missed this, and there's so much modern stuff in wrestling now. I think for me, I'm an old school wrestling fan. Like, me and Adam talk about it all the time. I want to see a champion on a show every time. Don't get me wrong, it's great what they're doing with Roman Reigns, but I'm old school. I like to see the main event of a Monday Night Raw involving a champion. I said this to Adam all the time, I loved when Raw come on the air. You saw the signs up in the crowd. But for you as a wrestler, is there anything that you miss from back in the day when you were upcoming that you would like to see in the current day product?
Are you saying on screen?
On screen, off screen, anything that you think might benefit the current day 2023 crop of wrestlers or production that you would think, I think that's kind of gone away from wrestling now. I really miss this.
Well, I'd say backstage, the younger generation asking vets to watch their matches, to try to not allow any excuses in their work, to not say, well, this guy does it, so I should do it, or can get away with it. So I would say that for the backstage. I would say for the on-screen, less predictability, but I don't watch enough of the on-screen. I just know when I'm there.
Yeah.
That there's a formula, and people kind of, they They know what's going to happen here. They know which way it's going to go. And I know that's part of the reason you watch, because there's a comfort in that.
Mm-hmm.
But you also watch for the big surprises. So I guess I miss the big surprises.
Yeah, I was going to say, just ban the fucking internet. Ban anyone from.
Oh man, I hate it. I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love the internet because we get to do things like this.
Yeah,
I hate it being over here in the UK, and I forgot to turn my phone off. I'll have a million messages. Oh, this has happened on Raw. This has happened at Mate. I'm like, man, I miss the good old days where I had to log on to WWF.com to find out what had happened on Raw, because I did, I miss them days. And don't get me wrong, technology is great. We get to do things like this, and it's incredible. But like, I just miss that element of surprise. Stone Cold's music was hitting, or the Macho Man Randy Savage was coming back, or I just miss them.
Jericho debuting in WWE.
Yeah, no one knew about that. But don't get me wrong, the internet was a little bit not as prominent as it is now. But do you think that technology has changed wrestling for the better or the worse, Brian, would you say?
I guess, how do we measure, right? Do we measure by personal preference, or do we measure by health? And how do you measure the health of it? Do you measure that by attendance and money? Well, attendance and money, it's healthier than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I would say that Nature Boy Ric Flair is a fantastic wrestler. I love Nature Boy Ric Flair. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers would probably pull his hair out if you saw Nature Boy Ric Flair wrestle, with how much time he spends on the floor, with all these things. Ric Flair was wrestling a preposterous style compared to Buddy Rogers, and Buddy Rogers was preposterous compared to Luthez, a contemporary of his. So I would say wrestling itself just keeps evolving. That's the way it goes. It's, slow down. Okay. It's just what people want is dictated by butts and seats. And I would say that the people like wrestling now, despite what old timers like myself might think.
Yeah.
I have to ask this question before we start wrapping up, because I always ask it and it catches a lot of the wrestlers out. What is your favorite entrance music that you hear, that you have, or not you, but from
Bad Bunny's music was really good. That's a little different. I'd say modern day Shinsuke. It's got man.
That's what I said last episode.
Shinsuke, it's a good one. I'll tell you, when you hear Oscars, and I haven't thought about it in a long time, but the da 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 ba, 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 it's hard not to bop around. So
the one that always gets me, and I always tell this story when I say the wrestlers, is not because it's my personal favorite, but it's being there live. Was The Undertaker.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
The moment, I swear that aircon. I'm telling you that it gets cold. I don't. Maybe it's in that moment. The gong goes off, the lights go out, the thunder. It only gets hot when that flame shoots up, because I've been right next to it. So I know. But like I suppose you get caught up in the moment. I mean, you've obviously been there. Do you get, when you're in the ring, are you sitting there thinking, shit?
There's grown men and women on the international tours. I know I've done it over and over again, that when Undertaker's making his entrance for a 6-man tag match in Milan or whatever it's going to be, like, wow, how cool. These people don't speak English. You don't speak Italian. But as soon as he comes out, whoa, the first, dong, or if you're close enough to where you can hear the from the smoke machines coming out first, whoa, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's a crazy feeling. And you just, Undertaker, but the people, the nostalgia, but on top of it, it's not just something you like from childhood. He's excellent.
Yeah,
like, he's excellent. You're gonna see a living legend. So yeah, that's a great choice.
The other one that gets me, and this is only because of the pyro, is Kane. And there was two occasions where I nearly crapped myself. Where it was one, it was a house show in Birmingham, England, and it was a time when he was feuding with Matt Hardy and Lita. I think they were in a bit of having a feud, and it was a mixed tag, and it was Lita and Matt versus, I don't know who it was, who they were going against. I think it was Rhino and somebody else. And Lita come out. So everyone was assuming Matt's music comes out. He was getting your V1 fingers ready to, it's going to go. I think he used to go, oh, yeah. And then Matt used to come out. And this orange ball shoots up from the floor. and explodes. Because
Yeah,
this is at the time where Kane used to have that little eerie music, and then he's pyro. This was when pyro music. And then so there was that one. And then the following time was in Manchester, England. He done the first Raw taping over here. I think the first Raw taping ever over here. And he was in a feud with Snitsky and Lita. And Snitsky cut a promo before an 8-man. And it was a time when he had killed Lita's baby. You know, she had a big kick
only in wrestling.
Yeah, only in wrestling. and he used the words, "The only thing dead around here is your baby." And the crowd, you know, he was one of those.
You ain't getting away with that line now.
You ain't getting away with that now. No. And so obviously the match has started, and you're watching the match, and of course, bang! At the oh my god! But yeah, Kane's just for that.
Incredible. Well, Brian, just before we finish up, my man, it's been our absolute honor to have you on our podcast, and I genuinely mean that. It's been an absolute great to sit down and sit with one of our favorite wrestlers of all time. Just tell our listeners, what does the future hold? What are you up to these days? What is the 2023 looking like for Brian Kendrick?
I don't know. I hope to get over this cold first and foremost. After that, I don't know. It's hard enough to tell where you've been, let alone, you know, where you're going. So, yeah, got some indies coming up, and we'll see what happens.
Well, if you ever get back over to the UK, my man, let us know. We'd love to come and watch you wrestling. So we're about 45 minutes away from London.
We can go. We can get anywhere. I mean, it's
we travel all over the place watching wrestling. So if you ever hit back over to London. But Brian, thanks so much, my man. Honestly, it's meant a lot to us just to spend this little bit of time with you. You are just as nice in person as I thought you would be, my man. And I know myself and Adam just wish you every success with whatever you do in the future.
Well, thanks a lot, Andy, and thanks, Adam. Hope to run into you guys in the UK.
That'll be a night out, I tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Hit in the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Andy Burrows, with my good friend and tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins, and the amazing Brian Kendrick. Till next time, everybody, buckle down and stay safe.